It's Saturday morning, I'm Steve, and welcome to the Saturday morning TV revival. Grab your cereal, sit cross-legged in front of your screen, and get ready for your new Saturday routine. Tap like if this is already feeling nostalgic. First up, we'll be heading over to the hobby bench for our hobby hangout, talking about the projects we worked on this week and what we're going to work on next week. Today's Quickie is all about giving your plants the care they deserve. And then the most unhinged Pokemon pack battle is back with Lick That Pokémon. Follow if you're curious on how that is gonna go. In Bit by Bit, we're diving into another rule from Dungeons and Dragons and helping you to get playing faster without the stress. Hit or Miss brings you my best and worst comics from the week, and then we're into our book club for something very, very dark indeed. You've been warned. We'll wrap up today with a spotlight on another retro gaming moment, so keep watching to catch the throwbacks. Get ready, lock in, and let's bring back the Saturday morning joy from our youth. Okay, over to the hobby bench for this week's hobby hangout. This is a story about betrayal, redemption, and slugs. Mostly slugs. Welcome to Hobby Hangout, where we celebrate our wins, laugh at our fails, and yes, we even count watering our plants as hobby progress here. So tell me in the comments, what was your hobby goal from last week? Baking sourdough, repainting the spare room an obnoxious colour, or binging Stranger Things before season 5. Nobody is left behind. My goal was simple: save my neglected houseplants from the brink of death. I spent a full day giving them TLC. I took cuttings from 4, planted 4 more, repotted 12, treated 7 for mealybug, 3 for fungus, and 1 poor little thing for greenfly. I even made a pilgrimage to the garden centre and came home with potting grit, a bowl for repotting a cactus, and even my first ever aloe vera plant, which makes total sense because I love those aloe vera drinks, right? Let me know your most tenuous justification for a hobby purchase, because I think that we would get along. As for the slug farm, well, I discovered it and I demolished it. Turns out one planter was Slug City, complete with creepy little rice-looking eggs under the pot. A deep clean later, and there are no more slimy trails across my floor, so I am calling that a victory. Drop your comment if you've ever found something hiding in your stuff, because I can't be the only one. So yeah, the plants are happier, I'm happier, and I'm calling that a win for last week. Did you smash your hobby goal, or did life just steamroll your free time? Either way, don't beat yourself up. Scale your goals down if you need to, but make sure you keep that time for yourself. Your hobby deserves it, and you deserve it. All right, time to set some hobby goals for next week, because apparently my Warhammer pile of shame isn't going to paint itself. I've got a big tournament in November, and it'd be very cool to show up with a fully painted army. If it doesn't happen, I'm not going to beat myself up about it, but I'd like to try. This week, my goal is to tackle a Salamander character. In my Space Marine, any unit without a chapter keyword gets painted like rusty silver, like they're Rent Marines, and my lore is that their armour has been stripped of paint, left in storage, and started to rust. But when a model has a chapter keyword, like Salamanders, it gets the full treatment. Real colours painted to a high standard. I liked the idea of chapters renting backup Marines to bulk out their army when needed. I know that's not canon, but this is my lore and they are my rules. Leave a comment if you've ever made up your own rules for fun, and what were they? Painting Agatone is on the horizon, but first I'm going to run some test models. Salamanders are green, and I want that rich blend of going from a deep purpley blue shadow up to a bright green highlight. I need to work out whether to use the airbrush for the whole gradient and make life easier, or go hardcore and glaze every single shadow and highlight by hand. One will look better and the other will be a lot quicker. So follow if you want to see which method wins next week. So what's your hobby goal for next week? Painting, a jigsaw, finally printing those photos from your phone, whatever it is, drop it in the comments and I'll see you next week for more hobby hangout and to show how it all went. Now, while we're already on the subject of plants, it's time for a quickie. Brace yourself because I want to know if you are riddled. And I'm talking mealybugs. Tap like if you've ever had a mealybug infestation. After dealing with my own infestation this week, here's the fastest way I found to get rid of them. Mealybugs look like woodlice that have got into a bag of candy floss and then decided to chill on your plants. They're all fluffy and white. Grab yourself a spray bottle, fill it with surgical spirits, and then spray it on your plants, including all the nooks and crannies. You can even use a tiny paintbrush to reach those sneaky spots because you need to get it everywhere. It works almost instantly. You'll see the bugs dissolve before your eyes. If you've sprayed a lot of surgical spirits, give your plants a quick rinse with water, otherwise it can burn the leaves. Then check your plants each week and repeat the process if needed. Soon you will be the undisputed god of the mealybugs, deciding who lives and who dies. Spoiler, they all die. Follow if you want more quick plant hacks in the future, but that's your quickie for today and your plants will thank you. But enough plant talk, let's get weird. Do you think licking a ditto is more like licking Play-Doh or a marshmallow? These are the questions we ask in the game show that you didn't ask for. This is Lick That Pokémon. Tap like if you already know that this is going to be the weirdest pack battle on the internet and you're secretly gonna love it. We've got 2 packs to open and the winning pack is crowned not because it had a valuable card, not because it had a shiny card, but because it contained a Pokemon that I want to rub my tongue all over. Comment with the tongue emoji if you have never ever judged a pack purely on its taste potential. Today's contenders are Twilight Masquerade versus Stella Crown. Twilight Masquerade, you are up first. Show me what you have got. Right. I forget what's in these packs. It's been a while since I've opened some of these. We've got little electric plugs. Chansey's got an egg. Tangela, whatever it's called. That kind of looks like fizzy laces a bit. Okay. Tap like if you're already rooting for one of those cards. For Stella Crown, let's see what you've got to tickle my taste buds. Right. Oh, nothing's standing out in Stella Crown so far, really. We're not counting berries. I mean, a Blastoise EX, that's always nice. Right, let's see what we have got. Twilight Masquerade. That looks pretty good. I've already pointed out Tangela, whatever it's called. And there was a Chansey. They seem all right. There's some potential there. Now, Stella Crown. I mean, a fish, if I'm grasping at straws. All right, here we go. Runner-up prize to Lumion. It's a fish. I have licked a fish. I mean, it's a cooked fish, but I have licked a fish in the past. But the winning pack is going to go to Twilight Masquerade for this trio. I can never pronounce this. Sinistra. Might poison me, might turn me into a ghost, but it's technically lickable. We've then got Chansey. I mean, am I going to lick the Chansey itself? No. But I'd probably lick that egg if someone's back was turned. And then Tangela. I never know why. I always think this thing looks incredibly tasty. Always have done and always will do. Like eating strawberry laces. If this whole thing disgusted you, then stop lying to yourself, because I've seen you eyeing up that Vanillux. And comment if you want to have a Lick That Pokemon pack battle with me in a future episode. But that is it for Lick That Pokemon this week. Put your tongues back in your mouth and I'll see you more next time for absolutely unnecessary pack battles. Now, from Pokemon cards to dice rolls, let's gather the party around the table. It's time for Bit by Bit, the bit of the show where we break down something bit by bit. This week, we're still diving into the Dungeons and Dragons rulebook so you can get playing as quickly as possible. Tap like if you've ever felt lost and just stare at your dice. This week, we're continuing with dice rolls, looking at what you can do with your dice beyond ability checks. If you're following along in the player's handbook, start on page 9 and leave a comment if you've ever rolled and completely forgotten why, because I do that all the time. Last week, we covered ability checks, which are a type of D20 test. Other D20 tests include saving throws, which see if you can stop something from happening to you, like dodging a falling rock or jumping out the way of a wizard's fireball. Like the ability check, you compare your roll against the difficulty class. Then there are attack rolls where you're trying to hit your opponent. You're rolling against their AC or armor class. So the better armor equals a higher number to beat. And once you've hit your opponent, you're then dealing damage, which uses all the other dice. It's different dice for different weapons. A dagger uses a D4, whereas a great axe uses a D12, because there's a chance of dealing much higher damage with a great axe than a teeny tiny dagger. Sometimes you roll against a list of numbered options so you can randomize things like loot, and then other times you're rolling for a percentage chance to do something using the percentile dice, the D100. So for a 5% chance, you need to roll between a 1 and a 5. Tap like if you love seeing your maths lessons make sense when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons. Of course, there are other uses for dice, but these are the main ones, and don't stress if you don't remember all of them. Your party is there to help, and the player's handbook is your friend. Leave a comment with your favourite dice. I'm a low-key D8 fan. Good things happen when a D8 is in my hands. Join us for more Bit by Bit next week, where we'll look at advantage and disadvantage, and I'll see you back at the table, ready to roll. All right, dice away, comics out. It's time for Hit and Miss. Is Hook issue 3 a hook yeah or a hook no? Let's find out. Tap like and stick around because this one moves fast. Hook is about an autistic man with extraordinary gifts who wants to do one good deed every day. In this arc, he discovers that there are others like him and he sets off to find them. A simple premise. The first thing I did, though, when I started reading this issue was double check the cover. This is issue 3, and I questioned that because this thing moves at lightning speed. In 23 pages, we meet new characters, learn their backstory, get lore for the Hook universe, watch powers on display, resolve conflict, meet more new characters, and there is still a twist at the end. It's wild. If you're here for the plot, it delivers. If you're here for deep character work, maybe not so much. Comment if you like your comics fast and full of plot or slow and character driven. I want to know where you land. The plot itself is fun. It feels like watching the 4400. It's got high concept TV energy. It's not super deep, but it's entertaining. The artwork is gorgeous. It's somehow bold, flat, and detailed all at once, and it stands out against a lot of other comics on the shelf at the moment. That said, Miller seems to be doing a bit of a monster of the week format. New characters show up, get a full arc within one issue, and then just vanish. It could be setting up something bigger, or it could just be disposable stories. Personally, I do wish that this was a 7 or 8 issue run instead of 6, just to let everything have a little bit more breathing room. So where does Hook land this week? Well, sadly, it's my miss of the week. And that's only really because I read a lot of really strong stuff. On another week, Hook might have landed solidly in the middle. But what comic beat this to be this week's hit? Well, as it's another week, it means there is another new Power Rangers comic. And that's great because we don't have enough spin-offs and crossovers and reboots. And we all love that they just keep coming out with more, don't we? Yeah, this one's called Rita's Rewind. It's a one-off tie-in to the video game of the same name. Full disclosure, I haven't played the game, and you don't need to. It also ties directly into Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Once and Always, forming a sequel to that. But again, the comic sets things up well enough that you could jump straight in. Let me know in the comments if you're a Power Rangers fan who's losing track of all these different spin-offs like me. So, is this any good? In a word, yeah. I'm going back to almost the original teams, hits all the nostalgic notes. The plot manages to do what Power Rangers spin-offs should. It takes the familiar TV campiness, cranks it up a notch, yet still feels fresh. And then there's also some heartfelt nods to past Rangers and even a couple of emotional beats that really land if you grew up with the show. Without spoiling much, there are some very funny moments with 90s cultural references that millennials and today's kids will both laugh at for totally different reasons. Comment with your favourite piece of 90s culture. The art is gorgeous. At first, I thought the colours looked a little muted in places, but then it clicked for me. It's going for that nostalgic retro filter look, not what the 90s actually looked like, but what we want to remember the 90s looking like. And it really works. Most Power Rangers spin-offs comics are pretty average, which is why this one surprised me. It's a one-shot. It hits all the right notes. It gives you nostalgia without leaning too hard on it and actually makes you feel something. If you're not into Power Rangers, this one probably isn't for you. But if you are, it's absolutely worth picking up. And that is why Rita's Rewind is my hit of the week. So, from colourful spandex to something much, much darker. Welcome to our book club. Trigger warning. Today we are talking about The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum, and this one is bleak. I'll keep spoilers and details light to avoid surprise triggers, but if you research the book or the story it is based on, you'll see it pretty much needs every trigger warning possible. Proceed down that road at your own risk. The Girl Next Door is based on the real Sylvia Likens case, where a teenage girl was abused by her aunt and her cousins. It's a grim piece of true crime which Ketchum uses as his foundation for his novel. It first came out in 1989 and it's now often considered part of the extreme genre. Some readers say it's essential reading, others say avoid it completely. Make of that what you will. The writing style is really stripped back with short, sharp chapters and bare descriptions. On the surface, it feels basic, but that bluntness almost makes it worse because there's no cushioning, and towards the end, you're just left with horrific scene after horrific scene. It's probably why I flew through the book, but felt emotionally heavy every time I put it down. The book is told through the eyes of a 12-year-old boy, which adds another layer of unease. His hormones make him lust over people his age, which makes sense, but the language he uses is over formal and adult and not what a preteen would use. That pulled me out the story because it made me very aware that I was reading a grown author's words about the topic, which I actually found more unsettling than most scenes in the book. I was braced for the most extreme horror I could imagine, but I didn't think the true horror came from the words on the page. It came from knowing this really happened, and Ketchum even softened a lot of what happened for this book. The real case was much worse. That was the part that got to me. So my final thoughts, it's disturbing, but it's not the most well-written book. It's not something I would casually recommend to everyone, but once I started it, I couldn't stop. So have you read The Girl Next Door, and would you recommend it? Or is it the kind of book you only admit to reading to in hushed tones? Let me know in the comments and follow if you want more heavy reads like this one. Okay, let's shake that off with something a little lighter. It's time to shine the retro spotlight once again. I only watched Lord of the Rings for the first time recently, and if you've ever needed something to roast me about, there you go. Let me know if you've ever been told that you can't call yourself a nerd for one reason or another. Back in 2002 though, I do remember the Lord of the Rings video games being insanely cool, and I was flicking through the August 2002 edition of the official PlayStation 2 magazine, reading an article titled Loring It Up. The article kicks off with a fun Tolkien fact. At the time, the trilogy had sold over 50 million copies since 1954, 48 years earlier, which is now closer to 150 million copies sold in just another 23 years. Give this a like if that blows your mind. The game itself is a third-person action adventure, described as a mashup of Devil May Cry and Metal Gear Solid 2, mixing ferocious gameplay with cinematic, movie-accurate backdrops. The coolest bit? The game seamlessly integrates movie clips, so 1 minute you're watching 1,000 blood-crazed orcs charge helm deep, and the next you're in the thick of the battle yourself. You could play as Aragorn, Gimli, or Legolas and swap characters mid-battle to mirror the movie strategy, supporting yourself with covering fire and other bits of teamwork. Other characters from the films appeared too, and the voices were all provided by the real-life actors. Peter Jackson even helped develop the game to keep it authentic. The sound effects came straight from the movies themselves and then modified for gameplay. This was called a tactical combat game, so button mashing wouldn't get you very far. I imagine my patience was tested as I am a very lazy gamer. The game actually launched 2 months before the film hit UK cinemas and got a Metascore of 82. Even if you haven't watched the films, this game was seriously fun. Tap like if you're a Tolkien fan, and I would recommend hunting down a copy of Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers for that real nostalgia hit. That's your trip down a retro gaming lane for today. Now, go forth and conquer some orcs. Alas, we have reached the end of today's show, so tap like and give the channel a follow and share it with anybody who needs a reminder on how good Saturday mornings used to be. Let's be honest, being an adult is hard work, and having half an hour to chill and relax on a Saturday morning sets you up nicely for the rest of the weekend. All the best bits from today's show will be over on TikTok this week, and follow to make sure you catch next week's episode. It goes live at 9:30 a.m. every single Saturday. We'll have more hobby hangouts, more like That Pokémon, more bit by bit, more hit and miss, and so much more. I've been Steve, and it's Saturday morning, baby.